I ran, by far, without any doubt, the best prosecutor's office in the country for the last 100 years.
Hopefully, with an organization like the Mafia, we will wear them down. They are people who have destroyed the lives of other human beings.
The Mafia families, I remember the most, they voted whether to kill me or not.
Right.
And they voted 3-2 not to. Big election to win.
Hunter Biden, the president's son, will be a target for investigation.
The laptop data showed no evidence it was faked or tampered with.
When I first got the hard drive, I thought the election was over. The idea that there's no evidence that Joe Biden got money, it's overwhelming evidence. His son explains that he gave him money. He's on tape talking about it. And then we ran into a stone wall. Finally, the Post publishes a completely backed up document, and it gets censored. The FBI had validated that document 9 months before. People have to know what a crooked man he was. He was just more than mentally unfit. He was morally unfit. I mean, this is a really bad man.
When I hear you talk about the election interference of 2020, Rudy, it's like I've never actually heard it before. You were there at the coalface. You saw what was going on.
I had about 12 or 15 witnesses to the corruption in Pennsylvania. The judge wouldn't hold a hearing. The courts didn't want to get involved. Somebody had to have told them, stay out of it. The tape of the arena with the people counting the votes 4 and 5 times. People think I produced that. That came from the arena. So even if they say they have no tapes, we have 12 hours of tape. And you can see them cheating. 3 hours of that tape has been deleted. And it's the 3 hours in which the alleged crimes took place. Deleted.
Did you ever think you might be on the other side of the law in New York City?
No, that really shocked me. Not so much even from being mayor, but 50 years of being a lawyer. But it's so surreal to me, it doesn't affect me that much. I know I didn't do anything wrong. I understand when people frame people.
And now they're coming after you. How do you stay strong when they're disbarring you, making you declare bankruptcy? How do you survive all of this?
I know I'm right. If you don't talk about it, they're going to do it again. I mean, my country's at stake. So if we don't stop this, this will become America.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go?
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is... This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Rudy Giuliani, the author, lawyer, and former mayor of New York City. You are considered one of the most effective chief executives in modern American history for your leadership during 9/11 and were named Time Magazine's Person of the Year. You were also given an honorary knighthood by the Queen of England and were awarded the Ronald Reagan Presidential Freedom Award. During your time in office, you took on organized crime and the notorious 5 families of the Mafia, amassing over 4,000 convictions. You also prosecuted big Wall Street figures, such as Ivan Boesky and Michael Milken. Your upcoming book, The Biden Crime Family, The Blueprint for Their Prosecution, looks at the deep-rooted corruption surrounding President Joe Biden. You ultimately believe that God protected Donald Trump on July 13th so he can go on to save America. Rudy, welcome to London
Thank
Real.
you. Thank you very, very much. A very, very great pleasure to be here.
It's great to be here. You know, I moved to New York City from Boston, where I graduated from MIT in 1993. I was 22 years old.
Last year I ran for office and won.
Yes, exactly. And I remember I moved to
That
the...
much?
Yeah, you won. And I moved to the East Village in New York City. And it was a little scary for me then, Avenue A, Avenue B.
East Village, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Alphabet's right near Alphabet City.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I remember starting to see police officers on every single corner, and I always used to thank you for that. I also read the book Den of Thieves about how you prosecuted the big Wall Street folks. And also I was in New York City during 9/11 on that day. and I saw your amazing leadership. On top of that, I ran to be mayor of London, so I can only imagine what it was like running to be mayor of New York. I'm curious, do you ever think back and do you ever miss those days?
Oh, sure.
And
sure.
did you ever think you might be on the other side of the law in New York City these days?
Well, no, that really shocked me. Not so much even from being mayor, but 50 years of being a lawyer. I mean, I had a spotless record as a lawyer. I don't think I've ever had a complaint against me. I was one of those lawyers who could be friends with his adversary. It's a lot of my friends were the people I tried cases against, because I was an old-fashioned lawyer. Honor, your word meant everything. Even if it meant giving up a case, you had to tell the truth. You had to tell the truth. I taught my assistants to be like that. I ran, by far, without any doubt, the best prosecutor's office in the country, not just because of me, but for the last 100 years. The Southern District of New York, Tom Dewey, Stimson, the former Secretary of State, were U.S. attorneys, Bob Morgenthau. So to have this happen is like, it's a shock, but it's so surreal to me, it doesn't affect me that much. I mean, I know I didn't do anything wrong, and I know what they're doing. I mean, I know what they're doing better than anyone, because I understand when people frame people, how it happens, and I have utter disrespect for them. I mean, it's like I guess a doctor who's a good doctor and sees doctors who are killing people. I say to myself, how can they do this? How can they make these things up? I mean, I'm not just talking about the cases against Trump and me, hundreds of people that they're prosecuting. I mean, a lot of the January 6th people did nothing. Some did. I mean, it's a very, very hard thing to explain, and I know that he gets in trouble sometimes trying to explain it, but he understands that some of those people committed crimes, but not all of them, not even most of them. There were more crimes committed by the FBI than there were by the people. And I knew that the night that it happened, because I got a video, at about 5:30 at night from a young woman who infiltrated Antifa. And I had the inside video that was done of what happened, including her identifying the Antifa people. Dr. Maria Ryan and I put it all together, and we turned it over to the U.S. attorney because we were still naive enough to think he would have an open mind about it. They never used it. They even destroyed my testimony about January 6th because I couldn't offer them anything that was incriminating. And they dismissed the case against me because it was a phony case. They charged me with somehow being involved in the violence, and the judge presiding over the case was appointed by President Obama, and he wrote that the case against me wasn't even plausible, that nothing that I said would have inspired violence. They took a phrase out of context without explaining it, and the judge got very angry about it and dismissed the case. But nobody pays attention to that. It's a very frustrating period of time where one side dominates, if you want to quantify it, 80% of what's presented to the American people. The other side, about 20. It's remarkable to me how well and how far we get on that 20%. You know, when I first got the hard drive from John Mac Isaacs, I thought the election was over. I'm going through it. Laptop. I'm going through it, saying to myself, I never had anything as a prosecutor. That I did think back to my prosecuting days, and I kept thinking, my God, I would have given my eye teeth for this as a prosecutor. I didn't have this against the mafia. I didn't have it against politicians, Wall Street. We got them on tape about 20 times. The idea that there's no evidence that Joe Biden got money, it's overwhelming evidence. His son explains that he gave him money. His son says, for 30 years, I've given half my salary to my father on tape. It's like you could win that case being a disc jockey. Let me play this, let me play that. The whole thing about he didn't know about his son's foreign business, he's on tape talking about it. Joe Biden. So when I got it, I said, oh my goodness. And then we ran into a stone wall. The Wall Street Journal wouldn't take it. I knew the New York Times would probably alter it. I wouldn't give it to the New York Times. Then finally the Post took a week. And if it weren't for 3 or 4 people there who were real heroes, I don't think the management wanted to go with it. But even they didn't anticipate what would happen. Nobody did in America. America's oldest newspaper publishes a completely backed up document and it gets censored. The FBI had validated that document 9 months before, in December of 2019. This was October of 2020. The FBI had validated it, by about 8 different sources. But the FBI kept that secret. Wouldn't tell anybody. That's why I don't understand how these people like Wray and Barr, how they're not in jail. I mean, they let the president get impeached. They let the election get decided, and there was unbelievable contrary evidence on tape, on video, in writing, 20 witnesses or more, and they withheld it for 16 months. They even allowed Biden to say in his last debate with Trump that Donald Trump and I were Russian agents, that it didn't come from John McIsaac, that it was Russian misinformation. And they knew it wasn't true. They weren't like in doubt or questioning it. In December, they had determined exactly where it came from and that it was valid, it was his, and it was truthful. And they just let him swing in the wind. And they allowed Biden to get elected president. And to me, at least, the consequences of that are all those people dead in Ukraine.
Right.
All those people dead in Afghanistan, our 13 soldiers who are dead. How about the 300,000 or 400,000 dead of fentanyl? I mean, Trump had that down to 20% of that. When Trump left office, we had 400,000 coming in illegally. Biden's last year, 3.5 million. We have no idea who they are. We don't even check them anymore. So the consequences of their sin has been death.
Were you shocked by the level of censorship coming from the top? Not just to mention for places like New York Times, but all the social media, Twitter, and everything that we've seen from the Twitter files from Elon. We could literally see them prohibiting the Hunter Biden laptop story from happening.
By the time Elon got it out, I was not shocked anymore. I'm just glad he got it out, because
that was censored in the press too. That wasn't really picked up.
Even as late as 2020, when they cut off the hard drive, I was shocked. I never thought they could. I mean, to me, growing up in America, free speech is. Sometimes I would think we bent over too much in favor of free speech. Now to see us pulling back like we're Nazi Germany or Soviet Union or something was unbelievable. The general theory in America is you put it out and you let the people decide if it's true or false. You know, we don't censor lies. Even if they're lies, we let the lie come out and we prove it's a lie. Right. Otherwise, you're going to somebody start playing God and deciding what's true and what isn't true, which is exactly what they were doing, and exactly they almost appointed someone to do that. But Biden almost appointed someone to be the truth czar, like in 1984.
Yeah, that's George Orwell. Yeah. Well, in 2020, we were broadcasting from this studio, and we started asking questions about lockdown and COVID. And for the first time in 9 years, Rudy, they pulled and started deleting my videos. And as an American, it made me so angry, because I just assumed this was a human right that we could put our points of view out there. You can disagree, you can not listen, you can argue, but to have them deleted, my very first experience with censorship, I thought always happened to the weirdos. And it does until you're one of the weirdos. Yeah,
and you are right. The first time I really appreciated it or really started to get worried about it was during COVID.
Yeah.
It was both the censorship, like what they did with hydroxychloroquine and some of the medicines. And I mean, I've taken hydroxychloroquine for malaria. It's a perfectly safe, it's a 50-year drug. It's never harmed anybody except, a few people here and there. Aspirin harms you. Fauci had written an article 4 years earlier about how safe it was. Now all of a sudden it's going to kill you. And it took me a while to realize what was going on. They were trying to make sure they could get a vaccine out. So they had to prevent any kind of treatment, because under our law, you can't get an exception if there's a treatment. And they needed the exception because if they tested the darn thing, they wouldn't get it out for 2 or 3 years. And I guess they would find out, ultimately, more people were harmed by that vaccine than helped by it. And I mean, it's ironic that Biden, who's probably been vaccinated 50 times, ended up getting COVID again. I've never been vaccinated. Had COVID once, and that's it.
That's when it started.
Yeah.
And it's continued and continued and continued. You talk about how the media doesn't really report what's going on. When I hear you talk about the election interference of 2020, Rudy, it's like I've never actually heard it before. And when you break down exactly what happened in those counties in Atlanta and Maricopa County in Arizona and Pennsylvania and Philadelphia and the details of what they did, it's the first time I've ever heard anyone credibly talk about what happened.
Well,
and
it's
it makes
frustrating.
sense. But most people never get the information and they say, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory and this and that. But you were there at the coalface. You saw what was going on.
You know, I wrote the book about the Biden crime family for the same reason that, about 2 or 3 weeks after the election, we brought the first case in Pennsylvania. I had to take over the case the night before it was going to be argued because the lawyer, a really good lawyer who brought the case, was threatened with being fired by his law firm. He had a big family, young children. Not only did they threaten to fire him, they threatened to basically do what they did to me, disbar him. Wow. So nobody would take the case. Here we are the night before, and I had to learn the case, went in court. I had about 12 or 15 witnesses to the corruption in Pennsylvania. At that point, expected we'd develop about 50, because we were only 1 week into it. The judge wouldn't hold a hearing. Now, I can understand, I've done restraining orders, 100. Never had a judge refuse a hearing. You win, you lose, but the judge hears your witnesses. And I realized the courts didn't want to get involved. Somebody had to have told them, stay out of it. Let them resolve it. And of course, the Democrats were very, very smart to cheat only in very crooked places. So they didn't cheat in Omaha, Nebraska. I mean, they cheated in some of the most corrupt cities in America, Philadelphia, Detroit, Atlanta. Every other mayor of Atlanta goes to jail. Or, I mean, they could have used my city if they wanted. My city has been cheating for 200 years on elections. It goes back to we go back to Boss Tweed 180 years ago, and we actually named a courthouse after a crooked politician. We're so crooked. And we are. To this day, if you have a Democratic administration in my city, you're paying money for everything. I mean, everybody's getting kickbacks. And the judges are appointed by the politicians, and the judges do what the politicians want. New York, Chicago, not sure about Boston. Certainly Philadelphia. Philadelphia is one of the worst. Atlanta, Georgia has become, for the last 30 years, equal to any of the eastern cities. It's been a Democratic cesspool. So when I realized the night of the election, and he was ahead in 5 states, one of them by 800,000 votes, and they stopped counting, and I started hearing the cities, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Milwaukee, Atlanta. I said, oh my God, I never thought of that. They're going to fix this case in the cities they own. Those cities might as well be part of the old Soviet Union. One party. Chicago, 60 years of one party. New York City, virtually 170 years of one party. I was only the 3rd Republican mayor in 100 years. And I was only the 3rd, only 2 of us stayed Republican. The other one became a Democrat. So I decided after that to switch our strategy. So they say we lost a lot of cases, almost on purpose, because we didn't put any resources in it. I said, I have to get this testimony memorialized. Have to have it I don't know if we can win, but we have to have this for historical purposes, because if we don't stop this, this will become America. Because if they get away with this, they're going to keep doing it. So I went to the legislatures that were Republican legislatures. Some of them had Democratic governors, like Pennsylvania. But at least I could get a majority of the legislature to give me a hearing. And then I could put my witnesses on the witness stand. So for example, the best hearings we had were in Georgia. We had over 110 witnesses. We produced about 50. But the senators went out and got about 60 of their own. And there's a terrific report that was done way back then that nobody pays attention to by the presiding officer, who basically says the election was stolen and here's the proof. And he lays it right out. And he did that probably December 30th of 2020. There's a similar report in Arizona, similar report in Pennsylvania, and a similar report in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin. I don't know if there's one for Michigan as good as that, but that was the best. The others were pretty good. Best because they did a lot of their own work. The others were pretty much just using our work. But I mean, he got, like, for example, the tape of the arena with the people counting the votes 4 and 5 times. People think I produced that. That came from the arena. 5 weeks after the election, the arena comes forward, the sports arena, and says, you know, we have a security camera that works all the time. So even if they say they have no tapes, we have 12 hours of tape. And you get it, and you can see them cheating.
Has that ever been made public?
Sure, a little bit. In my hearing, Bar Association hearing, 3 hours of that tape has been deleted. And it's the 3 hours in which the alleged crimes took place. Deleted. I mean, I'm happy to show it to you. It was deleted. And the judge in my Bar Association case didn't care. Democrat, appointed by the machine. She knows what she has to do. If she ever ruled for me, she'd be finished in New York. Be finished. Anybody ruled for Trump, me, or any of our people, you are finished in New York. You'll never go anywhere. You won't be in a law firm. You never get promoted as a judge. I mean, they play for real. I mean, it's like the equivalent of killing you.
Wow. Proper New York style.
New York, yeah. New York for sure, but
everywhere.
All of these, but when I say again, they picked the cities intelligently and carefully. I'll tell you another thing that tipped me off immediately. So I get a call the day after the election from Pennsylvania and from Pam Bondi, who was the former Attorney General of Florida. And she says, Mayor, you got to come here. All of our inspectors are being put behind gates about 2 football fields away from where the votes are being counted. We're not being allowed to see any of the ballots. And we're going to court, but we got turned down already. But you got to come and see this. You won't believe it. She said, I have pictures, but maybe if you come. So I didn't want to go, but I did. And I showed up. And as I'm going there, I get a call from Pittsburgh. Same thing. They put up gates. They wouldn't let anybody in. Got a call from Detroit. Put up gates. Nobody allowed in. Atlanta. So you got about 6 cities where everybody put up gates and didn't allow Republicans in. And I said, what are the chances that the Democratic leader in each one of those counties woke up that morning and said, let me go buy some gates and put them up and keep out all the Republicans. This has to be organized. This has to be, they must have organized this months ago with the gates and the idea was they want to show us any of the paper because, you know, there's a lot of talk about the machines and the machines may or may not. It's the paper that really fixed the election. And they fought like hell to make sure we would never see one single piece of paper. I've never been able to look at one single piece of paper in Georgia or in Pennsylvania. And it would seem to me, if I were the governor, who's a Republican in Georgia, and the Secretary of State, who's the one who probably doctored the tape, and I was being accused of running an unfair election, and the paper was pristine, I'd let you look at it to your heart's content.
Right.
So now it turns out, about 2 months ago, that 375,000 pieces of paper, ballots, are missing in Georgia. I wonder what ballots those were. So this is the kind of proof that exists. So when people say this is, you can't talk about it and you're being unpatriotic, it's just the opposite.
Right.
If you don't talk about it, they're going to do it again. And if you don't let them know you're onto them, they're going to do it again. And they are going to try. Hopefully not get away with it this time because a lot of it's been cut down.
Right, so you didn't win those cases, but have you now set precedent or at least scared them enough to where they won't try those same tactics?
Yeah.
But in a place like Philly, they're going to try.
Philly, no hope. We're just going to have to beat them in the rest of the state. And but Georgia has changed its law. In many cases, we've put together, particularly groups of young people who already are doing poll watching. So you watch the absentee ballot coming in, because that's where the cheating goes on. I had one witness in Detroit, a woman about 65 years old, an Indian American from India, a brilliant woman, engineer. They had taken her out of the engineering department and they trained her. And she explains it. They trained her on how to do the balloting. So you get they give you a whole group of ballots, maybe a couple hundred. They're all phony. Sometimes they only have Biden's name. They don't even vote for the other people on the ballot. And then they have a whole group of registrations that are people who are dead, people who have moved out 10 years ago, people who moved out 5 years ago. Some places use people under 18 who have driver's licenses, and then they attach the absentee ballot to that registration.
Got it.
In many cases, however, because they have to do it quickly, they don't fold the ballot. So in Pennsylvania and in Detroit, I have a number of witnesses that nobody's ever heard from except in the legislatures that will tell you that one of the things they were able to see 100 yards away, they couldn't see the signatures, which are what they are supposed to see, but they could see that the ballot hadn't been folded.
Okay.
Now, you have to fold an absentee ballot because it has to come in the mail, otherwise it's invalid. So it has to be folded. They could see that the ballots were just being picked up, and I can show you a tape in Georgia. You can't see quite as clearly as in Pennsylvania, but you can see that the paper is not folded over. It's very straight paper. You can also see them putting it in the machine 4 times. Actually see it. They go ahead, boop, bop, 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 bop. They take it out of the machine. You think they're going to put it over here for the person to pick up? Mm-mm. They fix it all up, and they put it right back in the machine. And then they count it. Now, we have only 5 of those remaining because 3 hours of that tape was destroyed. 3 hours of that tape is all that period of time when they were doing that. But even if you see it 3 or 4 times, you realize this is not supposed to happen. Who are these people that are doing this? Now, you can't let I know people think, well, you're partisan. If I were on the other side, I'd be doing the same. I feel the same way. I don't want Republicans to cheat either.
Yeah.
When I ran the first time, I was brought like 40, 50,000 examples of cheating. Well, they thought examples of cheating. And they wanted me to contest the election. And first of all, that was the era in which you didn't. Nixon never contested Kennedy. Maybe he could have, might not have. Number 2, I was running for the first time. I'd gotten 47% of the vote. I was running against the first black mayor. And I figured, gee, I bring this and we're going to have a revolution of some kind. And finally, I knew the New York courts are crooked and I wouldn't win. I mean, I was taught that in law school, believe it, NYU Law School. My evidence professors said the one kind of case you can never win in New York is a political case if you're not a Democrat, because the county leaders own the Supreme Court justices. Right. So I never brought the case, and I just did a better job the next time. When you were there in '93, I spent $1 million and I put together a voter integrity effort, and luckily we won. But we have got to stop this, and we have to own it. There's all of this stuff about it didn't happen, and this is a terrible, terrible thing that the press is doing to us.
This is the first time I'm ever hearing anyone explain the details. So they've really suppressed any details around this narrative, and people just kind of wave it off.
They frighten the living daylights out of you. Right. They put you in prison for it.
Right.
I mean, that's what the case against me is.
Well, let's talk about that.
The case against me is that I advocated this. Now, in my case, when you think, I did it as a lawyer, not even as a private citizen. It was my duty to do it. It's even my duty in a certain way to exaggerate for my client. The rules are that I have to give my client, as a lawyer, the benefit of the doubt. So if something is arguable either way, I got to go his way. And it was easy. I mean, I wasn't making this up. These people were coming to tell me this. It's the same thing with Biden. I got accused with Biden of going after him for political reasons. First time I got information about him, I was representing Donald Trump. I was trying to get information about Russian collusion. And somebody came to me and said, don't you know about that big bribe that he was involved in, Biden was involved in Ukraine? I said, what are you talking about? And they showed me the evidence. That was 1.5 years before he ran. I put it out 1 year before he ran. And the press went crazy on me. Went crazy on me. I'm nuts. I don't know what I'm talking about. It was debunked. I gave it to the FBI, went nowhere. Gave it to the State Department, went nowhere. They just sat on it. I tried to get the Senate to be interested in it. They didn't want to go after a senator. I did it not for Trump. I did it for me as an American. And then, from the first moment that I began representing Trump, unbeknownst to me until 3 years later, they went and took my iCloud account and monitored it every day.
Really?
The FBI monitored my iCloud account every day that I was Trump's lawyer.
You know this?
I know it for sure. They had to admit it when they searched my home. And they weren't interested in me originally. They did that to see if they could find anything on Trump. Then they searched my home, searched my law office. 1.5 years later, they wrote a letter to the grand jury saying there's no probable cause that he committed any crime. Well, how did they have a basis? What happened to the probable cause? You have to have probable cause under our law, otherwise you violate the Fourth Amendment to search somebody's house. You have to have extraordinary probable cause to search a lawyer's office. I mean, I had other clients who privacy was completely wrecked because of what they did. And they found nothing.
This is the deep state.
And they pay no price for it. Ray pays no price for it. The agents pay no price for it. The Attorney General at that time, well, at one point it was Barr, and now it's, gosh, I forget his name, our Attorney General, because I hate to even think of him.
And now that same FBI is investigating the assassination of Trump.
Yeah, I can't tell you how little confidence I have in the FBI. When I saw Ray testifying on this, I said to myself, what the heck is he, how can we have this guy testifying? I mean, how can we believe anything he said? He sat on the hard drive. I mean, everybody in America knows it. He had the hard drive for 1 year. He knew it was valid, and he let allegations that it was Russian collusion affect the 2020 election. He let me get disbarred in part because of that. When in fact, I got it from a man in Delaware who's a repairman, a very honest man, and turned it over to the, I can prove all of it, turned it over to the Post, and after being castigated and prosecuted and bankrupted, I turned out to be right. Everything I've said has turned out to be right. I said there was no Russian collusion. They lied about it. There was no Russian collusion. They tried to say that Trump was bribed or extorted the president of Ukraine. Well, it was actually Biden who did that, not Trump. And the hard drive proves it. So they let him, think about it, the Attorney General and the head of the FBI let him get impeached when there was evidence, conclusive evidence, that he didn't do it and that he had every justifiable reason to ask for an investigation. And now, all of a sudden, he gets shot, and there isn't anything right about the way they did it.
What do you make of that day? How did you feel?
I don't know.
When you saw that happen?
Let me tell you my credentials here. I was the Associate Attorney General when Ronald Reagan was shot. In fact, believe it or not, I had breakfast with him that morning.
Wow.
And I have a picture that I treasure. My mother had it until the day she died next to her, of my shaking hands with him that morning, because she loved Ronald Reagan, as I did.
Yeah.
He's my hero.
Yeah.
I work for him. He's the only president I work for. I never worked for another president. My two appointments, Senate confirmed, Ronald Reagan's name is on the top. I look at those anytime I want to feel happy. The day he was shot, I was in the White House helping to write a speech. I had to go get Hinckley, get him arrested with Judge Webster, the head of the FBI, get him arraigned in court, and then I followed the whole case and wrote up a report on the mistakes that were made. When I look back on it, those agents, it was almost perfect. They had him in that car like that.
Yeah.
Now, think of what happened here. It turns out now they knew for 90 minutes. First they said 57 minutes. Now it's 90 minutes they knew they had a suspicious person. Now, I do not...
Walking around with a drone and a rangefinder. Right.
So now here's what you do if there's a suspicious person. You resolve it before you go ahead. And they had an eternity to resolve it. 90 minutes is an eternity in Secret Service world. They had police who identified him. It was a big crowd, but it wasn't that big a crowd. And then if you can't find him and you're not sure, you don't go ahead with the event. Then you got two areas that sit over the event. So just almost a normal rule of thumb, any jerk security guy would do this. You put people on top of both because they can see the crowd better. Forget even the sniper. They can see the crowd better and they can notify the agents in the crowd, oh, there's a guy over there, he looks very suspicious. Even if they could break up fights that way. Yeah, these two guys are fighting, break it up. You always try to get the high ground looking down. Second, of course you do it for snipers. Both the water tower and the building in question were easily within firing range for any reasonably good sharpshooter or reasonably good assassin. That should have been, even if they hadn't been warned, it'd be very suspicious that wasn't covered. I mean, when my suspicions began about 3 minutes after he was shot, however long they kept him down there. I was sitting there, it was a Saturday, I was sitting there, believe it or not, working on an article about the convention, because I was gonna go and I covered the convention for Frank's speech and for X, and I was getting like a monologue prepared. I was half paying attention, and I see him shot. I watched him go down, and having watched the Reagan thing 1,000 times, my first feeling wasn't bad. You could almost see that it was a grazing.
Right.
You could see the blood immediately, so you knew he was hit. But he seemed to go down, it's strange to say, in a safe way. He seemed to go down in a sort of healthy way. It didn't look like he collapsed. Now I'm waiting for him to come up. They seem to take an unduly long period. But the theory is you get him out of there, like Reagan.
Yeah.
Or like I saw happen with him 4 years ago in Nevada when there was a threat that there was a gun in the audience. Someone yelled out, "gun." Before I could blink an eyelash, they had tackled him like he was a football player, hurt him, got him off the stage in a blink of an eyelash, and had him in the back. He did the same thing, by the way. He wouldn't leave until he fought with them. They wanted to take him out of here. I'm not leaving until my people are safe.
Wow.
It almost made me cry. I wrote him a text afterwards. And he doesn't get text, so I sent it to his. I wish I could retrieve that. I said, Donald, because I could call him Donald then. He was my friend for 35 years. I said, Donald, now I know, and you should know, you got the balls to be president. Because he went back out.
Yeah.
A lot of guys that are run off, been scared out of their minds. I said, boy, so he comes up, they bring him up. The first thing I see is his face. That wasn't when he did it, they did it. And I can't tell you what I said. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you, crazy? That you bring him up covered. Now, he may struggle to get himself out of it, which he eventually did. That's not your fault. I mean, these guys is the president, and they're leaders. And he's going to probably eventually do something like that. But you don't bring him up that way. It's like, here, shoot him. Here's his face, see? See, in case there's another sniper, you got a nice shot at him. I'm sitting there thinking, what the hell are you doing? Who are these people? And then I see one of them realizes that it's a mistake. They put their hand up in front of his face. I said, that's going to do a lot of good. Like the hand is going to stop, boom, right in the middle of the hand. Finally, one or two agents, big guys, get in front of him. And then they have him surrounded. They also kept him there way too long. And then finally, he pushed his way. He said, the hell with you. Yeah. He pushed his way up and started yelling, fight, fight. I thought he was saying something else.
Yeah, me too.
Did you that same thing?
Yeah, I saw that, fa. Yeah.
I said, maybe he can get away with it. Yeah. I was so, and a lot of the liberal press got annoyed that he said fight. Aggressive. Okay. Aggressive. Geez, he just tried to kill me.
Did he win the election in that moment?
I think so, yeah.
That will ultimately be what
I think he won
sealed the deal.
a big piece of history, too, in that moment.
I mean, what world leader would do that? And what anybody would do that?
Yeah, I mean, I remember somebody wrote afterwards, maybe it was Michael Goodwin or someone, either we want a broken down old bum as president or a great leader who has the courage to stand up and say fight even though he might get killed. Now we want a word salad, half a brain, as opposed to, I'm sorry, I mean, this is no disrespect to her as a woman or race or religion. I mean, she's a number of different things, black, Indian, Native, I don't know what she is. I don't really care what she is. If she was smart, I'd respect her. If she had taken over the border and done a decent job, I'd respect her. But to me, she's a complete failure at everything she does. And I know her record as DA. I mean, she was a pathetic district attorney. So I can't imagine that in the long run, he doesn't prevail.
Now, you saw him speak at the convention, and you could tell that he was emotionally affected by that attempt. But you've also seen him recently show up, I think it was Wisconsin yesterday and Michigan, and you say he's now kind of back in that Trump rhythm. He's better. But you felt the emotion there at the convention. He went and kissed, when he kissed the helmet of Corey, the man that died.
Oh, that was beautiful.
That was a beautiful moment, but he was seemed much more emotional than normal.
Yeah, but he would have to be. He would, thank God he was. He wouldn't be human if all of a sudden he almost got killed and he comes out like a cold. We got a problem. I mean, I told you, I went through an experience similar to that on September 11. It wasn't until that night that I realized how close to death we came. The governor thought we were gone, missing. He had drawn up a document to take over the city on the theory that I was dead. Wow. When I first called him, he said to me, thank God you're alive. I didn't even know what he meant because we were so busy trying to get out of the building, we didn't realize how long we were in there.
Because you went into a building that later
I was
came
into
down.
a building, the building got hit, got covered by a lot of stuff, but it didn't come down. Parts of it got ruined, but it didn't come down.
Next to the World Trade Center.
Right. Now, when I look at the building coming down, and when I went over it with my police commissioner and fire commissioner, if the building had fallen just a little bit this way, we'd be gone. People on the left and the right were hit. We weren't. Thank God. God saved us. And you do get, I remember the first time I realized it. It took me 2 or 3 days to sort of absorb it. Also made me, since then, much more spiritual. I mean, I pray a lot more than I ever did before. I mean, I made a deal. When I first realized it, second or third night, I took a little time off and I went over to the river to be by myself. And I made a deal with God. I said, look, this is way beyond me. I'm making decisions. And I told my staff that too.
What was the deal?
We just got to do the best we can.
That was the deal.
And I said, the deal is I'm going to do everything I can to make the right decisions. No ego, nothing involved. But you got to make it right. Because this is beyond us. This is what happened to us is completely beyond us. That airplanes attack our city and kill innocent people who were just sitting there doing nothing, and we don't know if we're going to get hit. At that, the first week or two, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we didn't know if we'd be hit. Wouldn't
People
be hit
forget.
again.
There were the anthrax scares. There were bomb scares every day.
Anthrax was 1 month, exactly 1 month later.
Later, right.
So you think, oh my goodness, these people are sort of into this like symbolic stuff. Exactly 1 month later, anthrax. It must be them. And then we had a plane crash, and the second month we had a plane that crashed over Rockaway.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.